guys, Pixie doing another video. Yeah, just about, I've done lots of stuff about recovery and psychological stuff. I think it's just dealing with the no contact issues and other things, and yeah, basically I'm probably better than I have been for a long time, and different in a way as well. This was quite interesting. It's basically, I think, that when we have bad experience in the past or we've had a psychological wound, we sometimes we develop certain traits or ways to cope with it. Often around self-image and things like that, you may reinvent yourself, and you may put certain things in place, like certain narcissistic qualities. Now, narcissism in itself isn't bad. It's when it's applied to other things. Like if someone's badly hurt and narcissistic, they would probably lose their empathy and only give a shit about themselves, basically. But there's a natural point where you need to put yourself first, and I think that's kind of so yeah, that's probably where I'm at, is that I have certain traits. I mean, there was a time when I was a bit more introverted, to be honest, and then there was a kind of, I could let rip with my friends, but I just didn't feel comfortable doing it around in public so much. I mean, I did used to mess around. It was just it seemed to be that I didn't want to overdraw attention to myself, or maybe I was kind of suppressed a little bit by my parents. I don't know. It was a lot going on as a youngster. Mum was working a lot. Dad wasn't very well, or he just wasn't that interested, to be honest, in what we were doing. He was more interested in himself. So we were kind of left to deal with things ourselves. And I guess possibly an inward journey as well. I mean, I was a dreamer anyway, but it may have made me want to be more spiritual. I play a lot outside, and felt probably more kin to nature. You know, it was just it was the area. I mean, I grew up in an area where there was a lake, and there was a woods just down the road. I used to sort of go with a group of mates, just be like a little gang, and it was just like a boys thing. There used to be things like, you know, this sort of adventurous seven or whatever. There used to be things like that, not sort of the kind of gangs that people might strive to now. I mean, I did get into another type of gang as I was getting older, and that was a mixture of, I think it was a bit of a mixture. Was it a mixture between two schools? Yeah, it was really. There was a mixture of different friends from two schools, and we all went down this local park. I spent many years doing that. It was just it's difficult. It's like a pecking order, and it's hard to get ahead of it, really. Yeah, it's disappointing. Certain levels of it are disappointing as well. The only thing is, if you run with a gang, I mean, not unless you're in a sort of position, you've got to find out where's your niche within that gang. And I used to be a bit of a joker, and that was it, really. Used to have a bit of a laugh, and I was easygoing and so on. But I didn't want to be a joker. I mean, you can make a bully boy or whatever he is. I can make him laugh, but I had to reduce my intelligence. I was in the class. It was like, basically, I was joking around in a park with someone, and then the opportunity was, why don't we hang out with me? And I was thinking, not really, because I'm not trying to aspire to be an entertainment for somebody who doesn't really understand any work, and he can't read and can't focus. I mean, I couldn't really focus at school. I just I was like in a different world. I just waited until the day ends. I didn't feel like I was in a great place. I felt like I was in prison, and that grates down on you. I mean, I just look forward to going after school, and then probably go around with mates for therapy. Used to be playing computer games, And but then again, looking back at that, I mean, I never really. I would be a bit more social, I guess, at some level. But then things have changed. The times have changed. You know, in the past there wasn't the benefit of the internet. It was you get your GameCube on, or you've been to playing Street Fighter, and it was so addictive that you just got hooked trying to beat your friends on it. And it was a very small group of friends. It's not like you can just access the internet. Probably more today that people do go out and go to clubs and do things, but they also spend a massive chunk of time online, withdrawn socially at some level, or they just take the devices around with them, which you've got the mobile phones, which is all different. So the culture's changed. That's one of the major impacts. And so we all go through experiences. I think we all carry certain injuries there. We need to work with what they are, and like insecurity. Maybe you was too open at one point, maybe you're unsure about something, I don't know, whatever led you down a path. Sometimes people were moulded by their parents. Some people decided to break that mould. I mean, I know my parents, I'm kind of a bit of a synergy with them at some level, but to be honest, I don't really want to be like them, because there's common ground, there's things we don't share, like they've got these very strong beliefs around things, and like religious and stuff, and my dad's beliefs. I sort of probably amalgamated some of his spiritual beliefs a little bit. I mean, at least it's made me said, right, well, what's it all about? So this guy believes in witchcraft, and he believes in voodoo and stuff, and I thought, well, let's go check it out. And so I've studied that, so it's in the background. That's been an awareness, what is spirituality, and so on. But for my mum, it's Church of England, it's the Holy Ghost, and things like that. She does believe in fairies though, so there's something, but she probably akins to nature anyway, and I think a lot of women do as well. A lot of women are connected to fairies. It's more that people they've had the kind of relationship, going back to culture, is that maybe their grandmothers used to tell them tales about fairies and witches and banshees and stuff in a different way that you don't have culturally so much nowadays in the UK. So it was a family history, folklore, fairy lore and so on. So it had become a part of their culture. And then there was a strong kind of respect, because your elders consider it as important. So there was an elder culture. And there's a lot of anti-elder type stuff as well. Like this is a problem with some of my care work. I'm coming across people, and they feel the older people feel like burdens, because that's how society makes them feel. If you've got to have a value if you work, or if you contribute, and nobody's going to them and asking them for information, and they've led a life where they've made money, they've done things, they've travelled, there's stories, there's things in them, but the family know them all, but they're still, it's that skill level. And then also, what's the sort of latest culture going to be like? If people have skills around IT and technology, and these skills change, so the AI, you tell it what to do, it doesn't really require any skills. So as you get older, you're going to be less skilled, and it's a question of what you can deliver to the younger generation, because they turn around and say, oh well, I'm just going to get my virtual mum to sort it out for me, and things like that. You might be able to tailor your parents, have an algorithm, and you may even have, as I say, we're really technologically advanced society. Let's say you had like nanny bots, and you may have a thing where somebody's literally raised by a synthetic life form, or maybe it's a type of algorithm stroke. Some of their parents is a cyborg. Maybe their mum died of cancer, really, but they actually took her character and personality and put it into a machine, or they took a section of her brain and added it to the machine. So she might have certain types of responses around it. There's a lot that can go on in society. It's just these different opportunities that potentially may happen in the future. So I've gone quite far, haven't I? Travelled quite far, a little bit off the topic. So I was coming back to narcissism. So I'm aware if I get wounded and damaged, I'm likely to become more narcissistic. So what it is there's a part of me that protects me, and the strength of it is that it loves itself. So it's established that you kind of set yourself as special, and it comes from, there's a point where you might be angry at the world, and you're kind of angry at yourself, and you realise, well, I can't do that, can I? That's not very productive. And then you realise that maybe if you love yourself, that it boosts your strength. It's a power source, and you become stronger, and your self-esteem will start boosting. And that's really where you want to be. I mean, it makes you carefree. And the other thing is, you want to keep your heart open, though. You want to be able to feel around you people. You don't have to be sort of detached. It's a very strange area. So I think in the past I was hurt and I shut my heart down. So I didn't really give a crap about anyone, and I had a sort of burning anger, I guess because I fed up the way things turned out. I can't change them, and no one else is going to mess with me, sort of attitude, that kind of thing. And that changed. I thought, well, it's not helping me. And then I come across some Buddhist stuff, and said about holding on to anger is like holding on to a hot coal. The only person you're hurting is yourself, and things like that. And it kind of made me think and open my eyes a bit more. So I thank Buddha for that, the lessons of Buddha. And then I thought, if I love myself, I can love others. And also through my sort of children, they kind of the inspiration to love. And I was also doing community work, which I found was quite helpful. It was because I was giving something to society, and it was more than just a job. I really only care that the bills are, I don't want the bills to be a problem, basically. Just I want to think about them and just get by and get on with things. Do whatever you like. So so the new me he loves himself a little bit more than he used to. I don't know why, it's very strange. I guess because I've realised I'm capable of such strong feelings, that if I can't use them if I can't basically give them to someone else, or think of the same fondness to someone else, I'm going to apply that to myself. I'm going to use that energy to make myself stronger. And you by appreciating yourself, self-esteem builds up. I mean, I did start doing a little bit of fasting today. I don't want to do too much. And I'm in a situation where I work at the other side of town and close to where my parents are. So it's allowed me to keep my eye on my parents, check they're okay. And my mum appreciates it, but she's also given me leftover food and meals, as parents do. And as a result, I'm sort of, like today I had a lunch. I just scoffed a quick lunch down, to be honest. And I just popped down with my parents, and she said, oh well, I got some food as well. I thought, well, I've kind of eaten. I wasn't that hungry, but what I've done is I've had 2 meals within 3 hours, and I haven't eaten outside that window. I've had cups of tea, but that's like ketosis sort of stuff. It's a little bit of milk in a cup of tea won't break the cycle, and by tomorrow, I'll be at sort of further down. And so I finished. So when did I finish eating? That was 3 o'clock, and so from 3, I'm going to go right round until probably 12 o'clock tomorrow, and then just chip away at it. Don't want to do anything too drastic, because what happens is you might develop health problems, and you don't want to do that, because you don't know what's going on in your body. Your body's got to adapt to patterns and change, and it's got to start reusing resources internally. So that's important. So my deep understanding, though, this is very important. If you have been damaged emotionally in a certain way. Let's say like you're bipolar. There's nothing wrong with being bipolar, but you need to obviously understand it. You need to manage it. You need to use whatever you can to make a stronger version of yourself, and basically the only problem is if your mental health gets damaged. So for me, it's like I said, it's caused me to create a deeper bond, to become stronger, which is fine. Like, you know, tearing a muscle has to get stronger. I guess that's what's happened emotionally and psychologically, because my heart did go under a lot of stress, more than I usually have. But I think I just let myself become more vulnerable than I have before, simply because I didn't have certain boundaries in place. I don't want to go too deep into it. If you meet someone very like-minded, and they've got a lot going on in their life, and they don't ask directly for help, they're asking for information, you know, stuff like that. So what you do is you start researching it and sharing information with them, but the relationship's kind of one-sided, so you're sending lots of emails to this person. Now, as a bloke, you're not, for some reason, you just stop listening to the other side, and you imagine that they appreciate what you're sending them. However, there's no evidence of that at all. They just like, oh, he sent me another email. So, you know, you don't know if they care at all or not. They might. I don't want to upset him, so I won't say anything. And so you send lots of good stuff across, but you're not sure if that's getting appreciated. And then you go off and start researching the health condition, and you're looking for solutions for the person. So what's happened is that you're starting to overinvest simply because they gave you the opportunity to try to please them. This is what maybe falling into a pleaser personality, yeah. And so then you've started that, but because you haven't seen it happen, you've just let it happen. You know, it's like someone says, oh yeah, text me, I don't mind, and you have to establish the rules. What does that actually mean? So you might start texting, they text you back, and then they stop texting you, and you might on occasions text them and you don't get any reply. If you start doing that, you kind of psychologically you're folding in on yourself, and that's because the empathy fills in the gaps. Your mind fills in gaps because the other. So with the communication, you really want to get it up to as much as possible. But when there's no communication there, you fill in the holes. You have not got body language, see? And if you're not reading the body language through texts, so you have to establish that texts and emails are just a way of sort of signposting things. There we go. Where does he want to go? There's enough space for you there. Odd cars. I didn't flash them because I wanted to chat with some random car. And so it's establishing. So basically, it's not men's fault. Men's brains. So if we're not geared to any sort of extreme communication, and we also resort to default mode. So default mode is you have a basic template of behaviour and emotional responses around that behaviour. So some people are defensive, some people cower from things, some people freeze. You know, they do basic things that without training they won't do anything differently. They have to adapt to different personality type or something, which is not impossible. It's basically you learn to mirror behaviour of other people. You develop sort of chameleon abilities there, and that's based on the study of psychology of other people. You learn how they behave. So if you see someone, how do they behave, and see if you can figure them out. Because there's a style for at work. Yes, yeah, that's okay. Get that sorted, no problem. You want to shut them down, get on with it, and all these sorts of things. Keep short speech patterns and stuff like that. So there might be this particular style that you employ in different situations. So yeah. So that's the only concern is, like I say, if you have a psychological issue, you need to look at that. You need to look at the boundaries. You know, it could be that you've got a more serious psychological issue, like extreme paranoia, schizophrenia, you know, something that basically the stress will trigger a massive change, and also if you suffer from some sort of physical pains, yeah, I mean, the longer you're in a relationship, the more it grows. So I mentioned about the growth like a plant and that kind of thing. So your nerves sort of connect to this person, they make you feel a particular way, and based on how it ends will create a bit of a problem there. So some people have got a cycle locked in there. So they're at war with themselves because they have created these two characters in their mind. One of them is interested by the person. Yeah, I mean, I think something cruel sometimes, possibly guys do to women, is that they start falling, the woman starts falling for the guy, and maybe he pulls away a lot, and it makes her feel bad, and so she becomes very aware that she's got strong feelings for him, and so it starts creating a sort of cycle in there. So she becomes more dependent on this person. I mean, these guys do different sorts of tactics, whether they naturally do this or they just research this stuff, I don't know. And equally, women can do the reverse. It's not that easy. I mean, it's not that hard, really. Men are probably even more easier to read psychologically. I mean, they might think, oh, they won't mind, they'll get over it. And what happens is that they might not have the toolkit or skills to actually heal from a psychological pain. But now with YouTube and other things, they can look into it and at least address, like, oh, yeah, you can't be angry, and then you've got to see, because you're not looking at who you are, and if you look in the mirror and thought, well, look at me, I look like a right dickhead or whatever, then you might think, well, that's not the person I want to be, and then it resorts to the man wanting to change. But if he's not aware of that, and certain lifestyle behaviours, you know, like if the person's drinking to put the emotions aside, or the woman's putting, there's a lot of women that do that. A lot of fans of drinking lots of red wine in the evening. People that do that after work to de-stress, or issues around their relationship. There's a bigger issues they need to deal with. They don't like the loneliness, and all the anxiety and everything that built up creeps in. So what's that person going to be like in a relationship? If you sat down there just be offloading anxiety in the evening. So there's a whole load of things there. Anyway, it's just a big sign off, and have a great evening or whatever you're up to, and speak to you soon.